Hi, Joy Hernandez. I'm the Senior HR Manager for Tetakawi and the ILS company. And I am going to take you all on a journey here. I may get some funny looks if employees start coming out here, but then again, they know me. I'm just their crazy HR lady. So I'm just going to take you on a little journey of the innovation that we've put in place here at our facility to really address all of the challenges that came about from this coronavirus pandemic. And there's been a lot of challenges, let's face it. I mean, every company was challenged with determining who your telecommuters are and who has to remain on site and how to deal with both of those different situations accordingly. And so we, like every company, telecommuted as many employees as we could. So we had quite a few people that ended up becoming teleworkers. A few that were kind of a hybrid mix of teleworking but needing to be on site on occasion. And then we, of course, have the staff in our warehouse and distribution center and our cross dock that, they can't drive a forklift from home yet. So they have to be here on site to load and unload trailers and things. We started coming up with ideas for how to deal with that situation. We needed to be screening employees as they were arriving. Well, how do we do that? Well, we use G Suite, and so I created a Google form, so it asks all the pertinent questions of staff as they arrive. And then we initially had 2 employees that would sit out here on our patio. We changed this to our employee entrance area, locked all of the other doors so that employee badges would not work on those other doors, and required that all employees enter through the patio area. And then we had 2 staff members that would sit in this little corner here and would screen all of the employees as they arrived on site before allowing them entry into the facility. That worked okay, but we still weren't thrilled with the exposure that these 2 screeners had. So we had been using tablets and laptops and phones and things to screen the staff as they would arrive. I thought, let's just invest in an additional tablet so we can have a tablet in Texas for the few people that are working on site there. We can have a tablet here at the Tucson site here in Arizona to screen the 60 or so people that arrive here. And we'll just load those tablets up with this form so that the employees can screen themselves and hang a thermometer along with them. So that's exactly what we did. And it's working beautifully, I must say. We actually moved our time clock out to the outside of the facility to this patio. Installed these tablets that you see here out on the patio and put a thermometer along with them. And there's another one nicely spaced away from the first one. And so the employees come here and they screen themselves. And it's really quite simple. They simply just click on this and they go through and answer all of the questions that we require. It's all in English and Spanish because we have a very bilingual staff. And then at the very bottom here, once they've answered all the questions, they hit submit. It feeds directly to the HR team. HR can keep track. The HR team also has access to the cameras that are on this patio to make sure that everybody that comes in here is getting screened and going in the facility, getting screened before going in the facility rather. And, there's all these other pieces then too that came up. So what happens when an employee starts showing symptoms while they're at the facility? We have to send them home. So we had to create a form, an illness release form, to then send that employee home and give them the instructions on that form of what they need to achieve to be able to return to work. And then we quickly started to realize too that there were multiple scenarios developing of you have situations of exposure, you have situations of symptoms of COVID, and you have situations where someone has a COVID diagnosis. And so I started to realize there were 3 different procedures that were involved here with each of those different scenarios. And so I then sat down with our continuous improvement team and we developed proper processes for each of those different scenarios. And that then spawned into additional forms, additional procedures. We got to realizing that there could be people that might slip through the cracks and be on the site that maybe didn't get screened. And so we wanted to figure out a way to manage that better. We initially started doing reporting to the managers from the HR team. That was problematic because it involved a good deal of labor on the HR team to always send those reports out to the managers. And so we developed the COVID-19 website for the company, and I'm going to take you back to my desk and show you that. Another thing we implemented are these little foot pulls for the doors, so there's less hands touching the doors, and of course hand sanitizer, keep those hands clean. So back at my desk, I'll show you the COVID-19 website that we have now in place. It provides a place where managers go to check the screening records each day, make sure that everybody they see, I need to have my mask on, I'm inside now, everybody they see in the facility is properly screened. Another thing that this website has done is it has provided a place for us to show case counts to the staff in real time. So that was another piece of this. I had to come up with a way for us to track our COVID cases. So I created another Google form that every time we would have a case of COVID, I would reach out to that employee and have them answer some questions for me that I would plug into this form. And it tracks everything the company does in response to that COVID case and all of the symptoms the employee had when they were diagnosed and that kind of thing. And then I'm able to put all of that data into this beautiful, beautiful COVID-19 website. So it shows the number of cases, whether they were moderate, mild, extreme, asymptomatic, the total number of cases and whether they are still on leave of absence or if they've returned to work. At this time, we have had 19 cases, all of which have returned to work. And then down here, we just yesterday added this, that we can now also differentiate between how many of the cases were teleworkers and how many were actual site workers. And so that's kind of a new feature that we just added in. And then if you look up here, we have the daily self-screening report that the managers can access each day to then go in and check and make sure that all of their staff have been screened. And it really just gives like the timestamp, date and time, the location, the name of the company they work for, because we manage multiple companies here, and then the name of the employee and what their title is. And so the manager can just scroll through and double check and make sure that all of their team members have been screened properly. Anybody that hasn't, they then need to go back out to that patio and get those folks screened. We also put out on here the procedures that we have in place now for positive diagnosis versus someone having symptoms of COVID versus someone who's had exposure to COVID, so that our managers are very clear on what the procedures are involved there. And then a separate area for the forms that are involved in this whole ordeal. So obviously FMLA forms are a big one that employees need to be aware that they may or may not qualify for FMLA depending on their scenario. And then the self-certification for employees to return to work, to let us know when they tested negative, when their symptoms began, etc. And then the illness release form for when we do have to send an employee home due to illness or exposure or what have you. And then the request for emergency paid leave. So that's the FFCRA paid leave that the government came up with. And so we created a nice, neat form for employees to use to request that paid leave for their specific COVID situation. So this has been just awesome. This website that they created has a weekly checklist as well. So we do an occasional assessment that our continuous improvement team actually walks through the facility and checks to make sure that all of our COVID practices are in compliance. And then we have a nice scorecard that we can see to make sure that our weekly verifications of these practices are being followed and people are being held accountable. And so it's really working great to keep us on track and make sure that we are in compliance. Then we added additionally, and all the employees can access this information. This website is available to all of our staff. Then we added a separate section to really promote health and wellness. And so we have an area that kind of covers the mental wellness, and then You can see here there's a bunch of different tips and things for people for mental health. And then next to that, you have a For Your Body area that talks about physical wellness. And so this has some links to some different websites, and we'll probably add more as time goes on, of things that are good for your fitness and just physical well-being, as well as nutritional aspects of it. So this has just been the coolest innovation I think we've had to date with regard to COVID, both the tablets that we've put up for self-screening, as well as the COVID website that allows our employees access to real-time data regarding screening reports, COVID cases within our facilities, and all the forms and procedures involved with all of these different scenarios. So just wanted to share that with all of you. We also utilize our HRIS system to put out messages to folks to remind them, wear face masks, social distancing, washing your hands often, staying safe. We would occasionally put out, if we had any exposure situations within the facility, we would put those out here. And so we've been utilizing our systems to the fullest through this pandemic so that we can really be innovative and creative and stay on top of things. So hopefully this is helpful to other companies as well. I'd love to hear ideas of other companies and what they've been able to do throughout this pandemic to help their company be more successful, and we can all share ideas and learn from one another. Thanks so much. Bye.